back in high school, in the high school days, there were girls that would write these lyrics in the books, like to learn their songs. And like whoever knew the song in school was like the cool kid. So we would just steal these books. You steal the book, you take it to your dorm and just memorize the song so that tomorrow you show up and you know the lyrics of the song.
Oh, how we had scrapbooks of lyrics, and then you get a picture in the newspapers of the specific art and put it right next to the name. Oh my
Hmm.
God.
Yeah.
Like it's just you just can't like Gen Zs, I feel like have things way too easy. Like things are not interesting. We had so much fun.
Mujevale, Mujevale, Mujevale. My name is Bane Kibuka, and welcome to another episode of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show.
All right. Yeah. So I'm excited to have you on my podcast. I've been looking
Yeah.
forward to this for a long time. So as you may know, I hosted some of your friends from the Unpopular Opinion on my podcast.
Yeah.
I was blessed to have Fiona. I was blessed to have Prim on the podcast to share a little bit about themselves and what they do, and just a conversation. And that's how I run this podcast. I'm trying to avoid from sending people like pre-planned questions because I want to have a conversation and just
Yeah.
anything that comes out of it, which is awesome to bless the listeners. And I'm so thankful to have you on my podcast today. So welcome to my podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I what an honor. I do love having natural conversations. So
Yeah. So I followed you on Instagram, the work you do, the stuff you do. You're a very busy lady. I don't even know how you get everything done. Let me start from there. Like, how do you even get all the things you do done? Like, how, like, in a day, you
no,
have like multiple things.
I don't. When you see me succeeding at one part of my life, I am just completely failing at another part of my life. That's just when the wheel is up somewhere, the wheel is
Yeah.
down somewhere.
They say you win some, you lose some, but as long as you're winning. I want to start with the name, your
Mm.
name, the Instagram. Like, how did you choose your Instagram username? We all have like different usernames. Some people just come, but how did you come to yours, the boss babe, and like be your own boss? How did that come for you to go with that?
Actually, my husband is the one who named it. At that time, we were still dating, and he kept saying, "I see you on TV," and I'm like, "But I don't see it. I don't see it." And so when I started the page, I actually started as it was business consultant, something business consultants. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't giving. It wasn't really. It's not consultancy. It's not, me. It's not aligned with my personality and who I am. So that it just wasn't working. I think I went through like three names, and then I asked my husband. At that time, he was still my boyfriend, and I'm like, but what do you think I should call it? And he's like, just make sure there's the word boss because you're a boss. So I'm like, okay, but boss babe. He said, no, drop the babe. I don't like the
Hmm.
boss. So then he's like, but what are you going to be doing? I'm like, I'm going to be teaching women how to start their own businesses and grow successful businesses. And he's like, okay, so there you go. Be your own boss, boss.
Yeah.
So just be your own boss for a while, for a couple of weeks. And then I was like, nah, it's not giving. It sounds very, so I put on the babe and it just stuck. He didn't like it. He didn't like the babe at that time, but yeah.
That's pretty cool because even there's a way the username like attracts people to your page, like captures your attention. Like, wow, what does she mean by be on boss babe? And
Yeah.
like somebody will come to find that out. Like,
Yeah.
what does that really mean? And I was interested in it, and I wanted you to share a little story behind that. I'm sure a lot of listeners, your followers, they don't know that. So I'm glad I asked you that on here. Um, at the beginning, I mentioned how I have hosted your other colleagues from Unpopular Opinion, and actually, each one of them, when I hosted them, I would ask them how they met each other. So I want to hear your other story of how you met both of them, Prim and Fiona.
Okay, so how I met Prim first. So I met both of them online, entirely online. I was very new. I had like hundreds, just a hundred or so, somewhere between maybe 300. And you know, when they say you get into a space, get to know people in the space. So I didn't know anything. I've never really been a content consumer, which is interesting that I'm now a content creator. I'm still not a consumer per se. But yes, so I would search Ugandan content creator hashtag. And obviously there were the same people keep coming up. And yeah, I somehow reached out to Prim. I reached out to Prim first, and we met, and we just kind of hit it off then on that particular day. We went for a drink, I think, somewhere in Muyenga. She was so kind to come to my end, because at that time I was working full time in my school. So she came to Muyenga and we had a drink, we had a conversation. She gave me tips on content creation at that time. You can imagine. She
That's
gave me
awesome.
content on the community at that time as it was. And then Fiona, I met her online. I didn't like her. In the beginning, I really didn't like her. She's quiet and introverted, and quiet and introverted people generally make me feel very uncomfortable. I've learned to change my mindset around it, because before I talk a lot. I talk a lot and mostly about everything. So I'm kind of always thinking introverted people are just there staring into my soul.
And
Trying
judging
to
you.
figure. Yes, exactly. So if I've told a lie, I feel like introverted people can see it, that I'm lying. Something I've just always had. I have a very introverted family. My family are introverted, so that's why. Because everyone would just stare at me talking and I'd be like, "Can you talk? Someone say something, please." So that's why. Like, and she's very, a bit stoic. Sometimes she can be quite, compared to me, she's very structured, and things need to make sense before she does them. I'm the exact opposite. So it just didn't work. It's just not working. And she also has she seems standoffish. The first impression you get of Fiona is standoffish. Like,
Yes.
don't just keep coming anyhowly.
Right.
But yeah, I didn't like her.
That is funny that you share that, because so, and I've shared this every time I hosted them, because my podcast got nominated with those awards in Uganda, the Pulse Awards. And you get in that space
Yeah.
where you're trying to get people, please vote for me, please. You message everybody, even if you've spoken to them, even if you've not. So I land on Fiona's Instagram, and I message her, hey, please, my podcast has been nominated for this award. Will you vote for me and tell your followers to vote for me? And just like you said, like, she's very strategic. You
Yeah.
can't just come to her and just bring this idea that she doesn't even know you. Like, and that's a lesson. Like, I mean, I knew it. And she came back to me, hey, I'm proud of you for what you're doing, but I'm not going to go ahead and recommend something I don't know about. And I
Exactly.
understood that. And like, she is that kind of person. And that's a good thing to have. I mean, like you said, it scares the hell out of people who are not introverts. For us, like, who are not introverts, you can just come to me, oh yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Like, just like that. But so yesterday I went to this mall here in I am from the States. So I went, it's in Grand Rapids, downtown market, and I was trying to buy some ice cream. And this girl selling ice cream, she was the quietest person I've ever seen in my life. She just asks you, what do you like? And then you tell her, and then she gives it to you. And even the way she is, so in my head, I'm like, what is this girl thinking? Or like, what is she doing? Like, she was
Yeah.
so introvert that I was scared, and I have all these questions in my head. Well, that's so cool that you mentioned that about Fiona. And the way you answered that question for both of them, it literally shows that all of you are different characters, but the three of you came together to put up this cool show, the Unpopular Opinion. And you see how three different pieces that are different in personality come together to make one piece. How were you guys able to execute that?
Do you know what? It's been I think the two of them have been some of my easiest friendships. You know, we don't even meet that often. I mean, I invited the first time I met Fiona was at my wedding.
Okay.
But because we hit it off online, and so I invited her to my 50 people wedding. So she made the list. But there's something about Fiona and Prim that has always sat right with me, which isn't the case for so many people. I've learned to follow my intuition and my gut. I feel like your gut is God's way of directing you. You
Mhm.
know, people, the Holy Spirit, it depends on who you are, who you're speaking to. But I felt it. It just always felt right.
Yeah.
First of all, the unpopular opinion started very randomly,
Mhm.
very, very randomly. There was no. I've always wanted to have a YouTube channel, always, but I just didn't know on what, because I wasn't going to start teaching business on YouTube because I already have a busy life. I just can't do it, Then that this time Nyonyozi came to visit me after my daughter, and we were talking, and it was towards the end of the year, was around November, and we were like, okay, we need next year, we need to grow, we need to grow in this space, and those motivational,
Yeah.
I feel like I always say, please be around people, surround yourself with people that motivate you to do better.
Right.
So Prim and I were just talking. I was like, but why don't we start a show? And she's like, that is such a good idea and stuff. But usually, whenever I say all these things, they just kind of, how you'd be like, why don't we go to, why don't we go to Miami, or why don't we?
Mhm.
And everyone's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And that's where it ends.
Yeah.
So for it, just that particular moment, it felt right. And I'm pretty sure when Prim left my house that time, she probably didn't even think about it again, because I called Fiona. I was like, but we need a third person. And I asked her, do you think Fiona would be okay with it? And because she's known Fiona a lot longer than me. And I've
Mhm.
actually started to get to know Fiona a lot better since we started the unpopular opinion. Before, she was just a friend, someone I met online. So I called Fiona, and Fiona's immediately like, yeah. And that was very strange, because Fiona is always like, okay, send me the plan, the
Right.
strategy, break it. She's usually that kind of person, but she's like, oh my God, this is wonderful. This is yeah, I'd absolutely love to be a part of it. I'm an action taker. I am really the action taker in the group. So
Mhm.
I had a plan, like with dates and breakdown, and I had identified where we're going to shoot from. I had identified who's going to shoot, because none of us had the time to do the editing and stuff. So we didn't want to
Mhm.
take up, and identified how much it was, or how much each of us contribute. I had a whole thing.
Plan.
I had
Yeah.
the we met, and I just told them, by the way, we are meeting. It was a Monday. We're meeting at Agandi Studios. That's where we're going to shoot our first few videos. These are the topics we're going to break down. I think we shot about
Mhm.
3 or 4 short. So yeah, that's how it started. And the way our friendship has been is that we had a meeting after the first couple of shots, after the first couple of episodes, and we just said, listen, our friendship is important. We didn't
Yeah.
know each other well at that time. That's the honest truth.
Mm.
We've started to know each other better as we've gone, and we just put the ground rules. We all contribute 50%. Everyone just equally. We
Right.
we are equally. We're all putting in effort. Everyone has their own strengths. We all do the work. So it's yeah, that's how we came together, and that's how we worked it out. And it's just been an amazing, amazing experience.
That's amazing. And yeah, when you say that, I've watched a few episodes that you've had on the Unpopular Opinion, which is pretty cool. And you can see the effort put in the work, because I think I was sharing with Prem that I was telling her, like, you could show those clips to some of my friends here in the US. I'm like, oh, that thing is produced in Uganda. It looks so cool. It looked like something that was
Yeah,
out of Uganda, because, and I've talked about this on my podcast, like the perception of, like, some people have in these countries like America about Uganda, it's
I-
different. You can tell it to a Ugandan. I'm like, who do they think we are? Like, they don't think we have these
we are
things. And but but at least on a good side, that shows that somebody appreciates the kind of work that you guys do, and it's really
Yeah.
awesome. Aside of what you guys do together, you all have like your individual lives that you live, and you all have your individual Instagram pages that you post your personal life or like, and there's a lot of like funny reels. You guys are all into reels. Like Fiona does reels, you do reels, Prim does reels, and there's one of the funny reels I was talking to Prim about, the one she did about like you are a charging her for her beauty, and and then but for I brought that up on hers, but for yours I have two that I picked out that I wanted to talk about. One of it was how the millennials are trying to learn the lyrics to create reels nowadays. Do you really like? I know you mentioned in the comment in the section in the captions that you learn the lyrics to do the reels. Do you really like sit down and learn them?
I do. And actually, that's where that reel came from. It was such an impromptu thing. I was sitting at the table. I'm planning a reel next week for my for a partnership with a business that I'm working with, and I need to learn these words because they say you use the trending music, and this particular
Right.
song is trending, but the words is like they're rapping. So usually I'm actually really good at just playing it over and over again. But this one I actually had to sit down with a pen and paper
Right.
and try to write it down because I use my phone and it's usually and for some reason that the I music
Yeah.
I it like was going too fast. So I had to break it down and then just recite the words myself as I read them. And that's how that bill actually came about.
That was really funny, and I could relate with that a lot because it reminded me too. Like back in high school, in the high school days, there were girls that would write these lyrics in the books, like to learn their songs, and like whoever knew the song in school was like the cool kid. So we would just steal these books. You steal the book, you take it to your dorm, and just memorize the song, so that tomorrow you show up and you know the lyrics of the song.
Oh, how we had scrapbooks of lyrics, and then you get a picture in the newspapers of the specific artist and put it right next to the name. Oh my
Mhm.
God!
Yeah.
Like it's just you just can't like Gen Zs. I feel like have things way too easy. Like things are not interesting. We had so much fun.
Yeah, that's what came in my head when I saw that. But also the other one that was funny, and I want to ask you if it was true. Was you in the supermarket buying veggies, and in the back of your head you have Prim's voice and I think Fiona's voice? Was that
Yeah.
audio recorded for that reels, or was that
Oh,
audio from something
oh.
else?
So what happens is when we're shooting. So this was when this particular was recorded very randomly. We were having a normal conversation, and Fiona was recording her makeup. Do you get what I
Mm,
mean? It
yeah.
was just like we all do that. There's often times when I'm doing my makeup and I record, and obviously the plan is to cover over the voices with music or something, or one of those real audios. But then
Mhm.
When Fiona was editing it, she was like, "Oh my God, this is such a really good thing." She didn't even tell us, like, because even me, I just saw, and I was randomly scrolling over reels. I wasn't even watching because I'm not a content consumer as much as you'd think I was. So it was
Yeah.
random. I hear Claire! I hear my name in Prim's voice. I'm not like, what the hell is that? So I'm watching it, and it was so funny. I burst out laughing so hard.
Mhm.
So on this Now that was a few weeks ago. So on the day that I recorded this particular one, my husband and I went to the supermarket, and I stayed in the car. I was supposed to stay in the car, but then he said, "I'm going to buy some veggies." And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is such a perfect time maybe we can create the reel." It just came very impromptu like that. And that's actually the best content is the one I
Yeah.
don't plan, one that just
I was just laughing. I could just imagine like their voices in your head. Like it came off really good. It's just funny. It's just funny. But also one thing I wanted to touch on because I'm sure a lot of girls will want to know. I put up a post for people to send me some questions, but I think I was too late when I put it up.
Yeah.
It was so close to the recording that I wasn't able to get a lot of questions. But some of the things that I just saw, and I'm thinking out to the girls watching you or looking up to you. You're a mother yourself, but how do you balance being a mother and doing all these things and running your entrepreneurs?
I let go of the idea of balancing. You know, the scale is either up on one and down on the other, and vice versa.
Mhm.
So I obviously mothering is the most important part. So I just make sure every single day I have at least an hour with my daughter. Most days, most days,
Yeah.
not always. Like there are weeks when I go, I've seen her. Yes, she's been around me, but no quality time, no actually me sitting down and getting to know her and doing stuff with her and just being me and her. So yeah, it's just I wake up in the morning, I try to intentionally do something with her. So I'm a teacher, fortunately for me. So I have all sorts of fun activities that I can create with her that I don't even need to buy stuff for. So it's very easy for me to think
Yeah.
of some activities in the morning that I can work with her. I try as much as possible to do that. Lately, it hasn't been very possible because I have a very busy schedule and I'm really struggling with depression at the moment. So mornings are difficult for me. So that way, because she's just come home from school. So usually now this is the time I would be working with her,
Mm.
doing something outside. She has a little play area outside, a kitchen, and there's a swing outside that I could go to. I could put a mat in the grass under a tree and just watch her play. However, that hasn't been happening all day. The truth is, I don't know. I'm trying to tell all these many words for I don't. I'm
Mhm.
either being a really, really good mom or a really, really, really good entrepreneur. Never both at the same time.
First of all, I apologize for intervening in her time. This was a special moment for her, and I'm going to try my best to not prolong this conversation so you can get time to her. I take that really, really important to just spend time with the kids. And that brings me to your entrepreneur and how you've said even on your Instagram that you're trying to teach people or women how to make money and to live their best life in this economy. What brought you to that idea of wanting to help women to think about making money and being entrepreneurs?
When I started, which is over 10 years ago now,
Hmm.
uh, I needed me. I needed someone like me to take me through it. Like there's so many mistakes I would have avoided. Like I took the long scenic routes
Yeah.
and I could if I had someone to tell me these things. Something as simple as confidence. Something as simple as someone telling me, Claire, I know it's hard, keep going. Something as simple as that, And I've seen the impact it's had when I come on and say, listen, guys, I'm struggling with depression. But this is a temporary feeling. I'm not going to let it get in the way of my future. Do you get of what I'm working
Mhm.
hard for?
Okay.
Something as simple as someone actually say, first of all, you seeing someone actually go through it
Mhm.
and hearing someone tell you to get up and keep showing up regardless of what's happening around you. There's magic in that. There's a lot of magic in that I didn't get when I was younger. I gave up on a lot of things when I shouldn't have given up on them. I did a lot of things shouldn't have done. I learned the hard way, and I
Mhm.
just like if I can just help people avoid some mistakes that I made. And the small mistakes are the ones that impact. There's a reason why the statistics in Ugandan businesses that their businesses fail within a year or three, between 1 to 3 years of starting, because no one is telling us the nitty gritties. I don't know what you're doing. No one ever knows what they're doing. Not even Zuckerberg knew what he was doing. He did not know that this is where Facebook was going to come
Yeah.
to at time. But for some reason, we have this pressure. So that's the reason I decided to do this for other women who needed me, who needed a me.
Yeah.
Um, when they were starting out or when they were trying to figure things out. I think one of the best advice I have ever heard was, the how is none of your business. We get so caught up in the how that we fail to like you never know what's going to happen at step 100. Your business is step 1, but we're always at step 1. You're being like, oh my god, what's step 99 going to look like? What's step 82 going to look like? What am I going to do when I get? But it's none of your business. And for me, that when I tell people that, I feel like it opens up it opens them up to the possibilities, because most of us get stuck in the how, that we forget to just keep moving, put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. That's good that you share that, because like growing up, and you share the statistic, like most of the business fell after a year. Like nobody advises you on, first of all, what kind of business you're starting. Like we could just start. "Ngenda kutandika kulunda bumiu." You don't even know if people are interested in bumiu. Like you don't know if that business is right for that time, is right for that location. And that's why most of these things fail, and we don't do the research. So I'm really happy when I see that somebody comes out to share their experience to help other people not make the same mistakes they did. And that reminds me of the purpose of this podcast. It's like I wanted my podcast to just share my experience of how things have been for my life, to share with my other friends who are wanting to go through the same path, or they're trying to go another path. And then after that, I knew like there's a lot of other people out there that have gone through different parts, like what you're doing. And I'm like, I want them to share their story, so then somebody else can listen to that and maybe they can change their lives. So I'm really glad that you chose that to help people with their entrepreneurial ideas. And I saw you at a Women's Day at Katali. How was that experience like? And like before you shared that experience, you shared on top of that, you shared about how, and you talked about this earlier, about how you had 30 followers and you could only get like 7 or 9K of stories a day engagement, and that was tough. But here, PSF Uganda invites you to go for to do a boss babe clinic for their women's daycare. How was the experience like there, and what can you say about that opportunity that you had?
Do you know that mom I made it moment?
Yeah.
I had a mom I made it moment. Because I know that the ladies that were trying to get me into the PSFU ladies that actually got me as part of the program, they had to fight to get me as part of the program. First of all, when you come in contact with like over 50-year-old men, bless their souls, they the generation gap is big, and they run the show. They really run the show. So they call the shots. And then you're telling them that be your own boss, baby. These are corporate men in ties, in suits, they know life in a corporate way. And then you're telling them be your own boss, babe, is coming to teach people how to do business. The first thing they think is, what kind of name is that? Like, this is not a rap. We're not rapping. We're not, I mean, it's not Cardi B or it's not a music
little
show.
baby.
Exactly. So we met resistance there. Now I didn't know this resistance was happening, but I saw it when I went there. Like the guys were very polite, Shane. They were very polite. But you could see they were like, what the hell is this woman doing? So the ladies really fought for me. They really believed in the brand. These are women I've met maybe once or twice. We're not friends. We've just done a couple of gigs together. And they had definitely, I don't know if they believed in me, but I don't know if they knew this was going to happen. Even I was like, if I tag this, do you know what I mean? So it's just the battle that went on behind the scenes to get me as part of, like, I didn't know, but this was told to me after. This was told to me after because of, I chatted with the girls afterwards, and it was a struggle. So then it happens, and I call out. Let's say I post. I post on my Instagram. I posted for one day. And I was like, okay, one day, maybe 30, 40, maybe 50 people are going to come the entire weekend. There was over 400.
Wow.
And this is only people I took note of. And the people that registered, some people didn't register. They came and they left before they got a chance to register. And I'm like, wow. And I think the most phenomenal thing is that I was by far the busiest tent the entire weekend. And it was all weekend. Like, I did not stop talking.
Yeah.
People kept wondering what's happening here. And for me, where I got my mom, I made it moment wasn't even in the number of people. It was in the guys at the top wanting to being like, we need to meet this woman. We need to see this woman. For me, I was like, yo, I have fought the fight, girls. I have opened that door.
Yeah.
It was really good for, like, people were coming to introduce themselves to me. Like, people who I would ordinarily be the one being like, oh my God, I am Claire. They were the ones coming to me and they're wondering, what is this woman doing? What is this woman talking about? What is she giving these people that they're not leaving? Like, the tent is. So for me, that it was absolutely phenomenal, because I remember when I started out as Be on Boss Babe, in my first month, I had maybe 50 followers. My first week, I what I set out to do is be known as the person you go to when you want to start a business or grow, when anywhere between 1 to 3 years, if you've been struggling to make sales, if you don't even know what, I wanted to be that person region wide. And that's basically what I have been working hard for. The fact that the corporate world is also recognizing it, that for me was like, okay, the growth is very slow. It's like a child. You wake up one morning and your child is an inch taller. You're like, when did this happen? So for me, that was that moment. My baby, Bio on Boss Babe, has been my baby. I have nourished her. I have cherished. I have fed. I have done everything. And finally, I see growth. Now, it's not nowhere near where I want to go, but it's just really affirming that it has been happening behind the scenes,
That's like a reminder and a lesson to all the listeners, all the people that follow you, to remember that it's not over. Like you just mentioned, you had 30 followers, 50 followers, and you had your little dream that you wanted to achieve, and you just beat the dream that you wanted. And like you said, you're still on the journey. It's not where you want it to be, but you see this progress, and you put in example like a child, and you can see that. So if anybody out there is doing your thing, just keep doing your thing, and you never know when this thing is gonna come out and it's gonna blow out and it will beat your expectations. The only thing you got to do is just keep doing what you're doing. I like to put that out there. And that brings me to your Unstoppable Boss Babe podcast. Like, you started that. What made you to tap into the podcast, and what was the reason to start the Unstoppable Boss Babe podcast?
Okay, so Prim calls me a motivational speaker, and it's quite fun. She's like, we need to beat motivational speakers. So there's a lot of stuff I've learned along the way that is very, very difficult to put into content on Instagram. Do you get what I mean? I feel like I've gotten to a part where content on Instagram is very limiting. I can't, there's so many things I can't bring out properly on Instagram. And which is why now created the podcast, because the other thing I tried to do was YouTube, but no, not doing it. So the best thing is, and actually on my YouTube you can hear chickens, you can hear dogs. On my on my podcast you can hear dogs, you can hear the birds, you can hear also, so you can hear my daughter snoring, because there's a point where she was right next to me. But my point was, this needs to be brought out. These messages that I have need to be brought out, and given content needs to be put out there, because someone out there needs it. So I've really started, like literally starting from scratch, the real meaning, because I'm fully invested. My unpopular opinion is not expensive. It's very expensive to run at the moment. So we're
Mhm.
currently just investing, very few coming back at the moment. And
Yeah.
then on Boss Babe, I'm also just mostly giving out. So when I started the podcast, I was like, you know what? Let me do this the easiest way I know how. I do not have the time to find a podcast space. There's no podcast spaces in Uganda. I do
Right.
not have the liquid funds to invest in equipment before I even know whether I want to do this or not. I want to do it, but I don't know how long I want to do it for.
Mhm.
I want to be able to pack up and just stop if I want to.
Right.
So I don't want to invest yet. I don't even have the money to invest, as a truth, because
Mhm.
all my money is channeled to different sources at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I was like, you know what, a podcast would be great. It's easy. I can do it. I don't need makeup. I don't need to dress up. I
Mhm.
can do it just after the shower, when I enter bed, when it's nice and quiet. So I usually shoot after 10 p.m. because it's extremely quiet in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dogs decide to have a barking match. I was like, you know
Yeah.
what, this is not going to stop me. People don't care about dogs. All they care about is the information I'm giving. Yeah.
That is true. And there's a few things that you've mentioned on there that I really like, I resonate with. And first of all was Instagram. Yeah. Like even when you put up a story, it limits you on how much words you're going to put up there. But when you have a podcast, you can just go on a rant and just talk about anything and everything. And the other thing is,
Exactly.
it's easy to start, like you just said. Like you don't need, and I'm going to say this, but like you don't need an expensive microphone to, like when you listen to my first episode, I literally just had my iPad and I
The
sat with
phone,
my
yeah,
iPad there, and then I just pushed the record button and just say stop
and
because I
recording.
wanted to put it out there, and I wanted to put it
Yeah.
there. And in that time, like as time went on, like I didn't just say, okay, today I'm going to start a podcast. What's the most expensive microphone out there? What's the most expensive this? No, but like with time, I was like, oh, now it's a good time to invest in a
Invest. Yeah.
microphone. And then you
Yeah.
buy yourself a microphone. Now it's a good time to invest in a light, and then you buy a light, and as like that. And I had Priscilla on my podcast here too, and she was talking about people using their 9 to 5s to invest in their other side jobs. And that's what I've been doing, like because I have a full-time job
Yeah.
that when I get
Yeah.
my money and I make extra, I just invest a little bit in my podcast, a little bit in I'm just not going to go crazy with that, but
Yeah.
it's the most important thing is to start. And that's what I remind a lot of people about. Like you had this idea, like I want to do this, and just I don't care about the dogs in the background, I don't care about that. I'm going to start, I'm going to put my information out there, and you did it. And that's the hardest part, to just start. And I tell people, you never know how something is going to turn out unless you start. And there's nothing
Yeah.
to lose. You either start it and it doesn't work, or you start it and it works. And if
And
it
it
doesn't
works.
work, it didn't work. Yeah. So
It's
it's a
one or two.
win. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one or
It's a
two.
win-win otherwise. Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you cover in the Unstoppable Boss Babe podcast? Like, what do people, what should people expect in that when they go to tune into your podcast?
Okay, so at the moment, it's still very new. We are only on episode 2
Okay.
today. So far, it's just mostly encouragement, because I know a lot of Ugandan women have a lot of fear.
Hmm.
Our core is rooted in fear of what are they going to say, fear of, and so many dreams die
Hmm.
there, that fear zone. So at the moment, I'm trying to help people realize that the fear, everyone feels the fear. It's
Hmm.
okay. We've all felt it. We still feel it. I just launched my membership today. So my nerves, my God, my nerves, because I'm also launching in Kenya. So we're going to be physical in Kenya as well.
Nice.
We're going to do Kenyan meetups and stuff. And oh my God, this is even speaking about it, I'm like, oh, who I am. But it's what I want people to know is that you can do it even if you fear. That
Mhm.
fear is not real. It's just a feeling. You should not
Yeah.
make decisions based on a feeling.
And that's a good thing that you mentioned that we're coming close to the end of this podcast because I don't want to keep you here for so long. I know the baby's your daughter is back home. But there's one line I want to mention, and we're gonna end with that, and then I'll ask you a few questions to wrap up. You
Mm.
may there's this one statement. I don't know if it was a caption or if I saw it on your page somewhere, but it says you're always one decision away from a completely different life. What does that mean to you?
100%. Like, if I did not make the decision to start Be Your Own Boss Babe without even knowing where it's going to take me or how the hell I was going to become the most known woman to everyone trying to start a business in the region, I would never
Yeah.
have like. And by the way, it's not even a selfish thing that I just want to be known. Okay, I love being known, yeah, 100%. But
Mhm.
what's more important to me is the people that I have helped.
Right.
You get what I mean? Like, do you know
Mhm.
how many lives are being changed or not changed by the one decision that you are
Mhm.
making not to
Right.
do something or to do something? Often we make things about us, but if you take yourself out of the equation, fine, you're okay with living wherever you are stuck right now, you're okay living there. But that business you're going to start, is it going to help someone out there? And if you don't start it, then who will help them?
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
one decision away. And you know, life is about decisions. It's
Yeah.
just you decide, I am not going to give into this fear. I am going to do whatever I legally can to make this one thing work. It's about a decision. Without decision, doesn't matter how good a strategy you have, doesn't matter how clever you are, it doesn't matter how rich or how, it doesn't matter unless you decide you are not going to go anywhere.
Mhm.
You get, because life, what happens in life is, if you have a strategy, you're going to do step one, step two, step three, something going to come knock you off.
Right.
That your decision that you made is what's going to get you up and back into the race. Do you get
Mhm.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Minus that decision, minus you getting back up, the first chance life hits you down. You are always, please believe it. I know it's what these catchphrases that we use,
Yeah.
but 100%, you make the decision, you decide, you're going to get somewhere in 10 years, you decide where.
I now know 100% why Fiona calls you a motivational speaker because I was deep. And, and I'm sure the listeners, at least if they've not picked out anything from this, they'll be able to understand the last bit. So, my final question that I want to ask you, what has been a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
Everything takes time.
Right.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
I think like that is just so one. That one is, it takes time. I keep saying this. The how is none of your business.
Mm-hmm.
The how is none of your business. What your business is what you have to do today to get to where
Right.
you want to go. Do you know what I mean? Yes,
Yeah.
make plans. Yes, plan, strategize 100%. But how those plans, because when I was looking at Be Your Own Boss Babe, I told you I'm nowhere near where I want to go. But when I was looking at it 3 years from now, I had no idea how I was going to get the many followers, that I have, but I wanted
Right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had gotten so stuck on the how, I would never have done
Mm-hmm.
what I had to do.
Yeah.
What I've done. So that's very extremely, it's one of the biggest lessons I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep going, keep working, put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Make it 1% better today than you were yesterday. I
Mm-hmm.
know Prim is going to now is trying to throw something at my head right now because motivational speaker, but it's true. The second is that you can never outlive that feeling in your gut that you need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You will not outrun it, you will not outgrow it, you will not outlive it. It's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And the more you do that thing that your gut is telling you to do, the more bitter you're going to become.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that thing, because I remember when I've always wanted to be a content creator,
Yeah.
but I was too scared before. I was too scared. And if I had started earlier, I would have been so much farther.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to feel that gunugu. Like so, I'd be watching Murugi and I'd be like, do you know how you're just always trying to find a reason not to like someone? I'd watch content creators. I'd really
Yeah.
watch content creators, especially the Kenyan ones who were doing well. And I would have that gunugu. By the way, if you're having a gunugu in your head, in your heart, for someone you've never even met, that you don't know personally, think about, just put aside your nugu for a minute and think about why. It's probably because they're doing something you wish you could do. So we end up saying, Barbie, I see she's fat. She's not even cute. She's ugly. Things like her man is even cheating on her, or that kind of talk over someone you don't know is an indication that you are jealous of something they're doing.
Right.
You wish that you wish you could do.
Right.
And then I learned that I have learned to follow how I feel about other people, how other people make me feel, and figure out why. And often if I see someone that I've never met before, even like someone comes in and they drive a car I love, if someone is driving a Mercedes Benz, me, I'm here on a Toyota, I'd be like, she's even short, or her husband is even that was me those days. But then I realized it wasn't about the person, it was about what they have that I want. Yeah. So I've learned very, very quick. Now I've learned over that when you're over 30, I've gotten, I don't know about other people, but I've got very introspective. I have a lot of I look within myself and try to understand how I feel and why I feel the way I feel. And often if someone comes around and there's an emotion that they ignite an emotion in me that is not pleasant, I always try to figure out why. And sometimes it's very much of, especially when there's like, she's even fat. Do you know what I mean? Or she's too skinny. Or, you find the pettiest reason not to like someone. Now there's different, it's different when someone brings around negative energy. That's different.
Right. Yeah.
So you have nothing at all, nothing other than saying this chick is short. Yeah, or she's not as cute as me. Like those are just petty things.
Yeah.
I've learned when I see someone, it's probably because they are doing or have something that I would like. So then I have learned to put it on its head and just use that as motivation instead of fuel that jealousy that I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is good. And yeah, all of us who are in this space of content creating and creating content, you see other people who are doing the same thing you do and they're doing it better. But instead of asking yourself, why are they doing it better? I want to be like them. And then we create this hate of that space, which I really pray and try to avoid. If somebody's doing something good, I'm going to message them. I was like, hey, how were you able to execute this? Which I know a lot of people from Uganda. Some people will look at that as competition, but I hosted another guy who is doing photography, and he admires another Ugandan who does photography, and both of them, they see each other's work and like they have that healthy not competition, but like healthy challenges that they put to each other.
collaboration.
Like, yeah. So
Talent.
that's pretty good. And as content creators and people who are in this space, we need to do that to be better. Because actually that guy said, I put that episode out last weekend, he said the space is so big we can't even finish the amount of things that we have instead of fighting for the small things that we've done. So that was pretty cool to hear. My final question for you, who would you like to see on my podcast next as a guest? And you're gonna help me connect me to that person to be here to share.
That's a really, really good question. Do you know what? I'd love to hear you talk to a man. Why? I think because I was going to say my husband.
Yeah, actually, that's what I had in my head. I was like, I think she's going to my husband.
I think I want to say my husband. Why? We need different voices in the content. My story, because I kept saying, I'm so tired of introducing myself. Like, it's the same thing. How did you start? You know what I mean? It's just, I know that audiences, so the new audiences are hearing something new, but I'm constantly, because Ugandan content creators are very few, the space is very small. So I'd love to hear, a a bit of difference.
Right. Yeah.
And I know my husband he's not in the content creation space. I'm trying to convince him to start because I think he'd be an amazing
Yeah.
content creator. But yeah, maybe he could start with chatting with you.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And the other thing you say, and this is not intentional, but on my podcast, I've had more female than men. I don't know if because men don't want to open up, don't want to talk. But I was on Women's Day, I was compiling all the women that have been on my podcast. There's like
Mm.
triple the guys that have been on my podcast, like hosts. It's just so easy for them to open up and talk about life and stuff than we
Yeah.
guys, we like to keep our stuff, things to ourselves like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be amazing. And
Toxic masculinity, but listen.
yeah,
Yeah, so I can happily connect you to my husband. I think he would not mind an interview. I don't think so. I'll ask him first, but I
yeah.
think he would be okay with an interview. Yeah.
I want to appreciate you, Claire, for this time. I know time is money, and anytime you give somebody your time, it's like you've given away part of your life because the amount of things you could do in that time is really precious. You can't put a price to it, but I don't take that lightly for you to sit down and give me 45 minutes. So I really appreciate, and I'm sure my listeners will really benefit from the words you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Bonnie. I am really honored. I can't believe I'm one of those people want to talk to an interview. You've given me a bit of affirmation. Thank you.
See you,
right.
and let's take a
Bye. I'm looking forward to listening in.
Yeah, I will edit it and then let you know when it's all ready.
All right.
Bye.
Hey there, this is Bonnie Kibuka, the host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with a friend and recommend somebody to this podcast. Don't forget to leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. And also don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. Join us on our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much and be blessed.